Imagine standing at the edge of everything you know, every battle fought, every sacrifice made, every universe saved, and then hearing a voice that chills you to the bone say, "There are no heroes here." That's Doctor Doom. And he means it. This isn't Thanos threatening half the universe. This isn't Kong jumping between timelines. This is a man, one man, with no infinity stones, no army of aliens, standing in front of the assembled Avengers, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and every surviving hero the MCU has built over 17 years, and he's not scared. He's not even nervous. He's disappointed. And that single detail, that quiet, terrifying confidence, is why Avengers, Doomsday, is already shaping up to be something the MCU has never attempted before. Let's talk about what we've actually seen, because the trailer isn't just hype. It's a statement. From the very first frame, the Russo brothers are telling you something. This isn't a movie about punching your way to victory. The tone is heavier, more grounded, almost oppressive. Where Infinity War opened with Thanos already winning, Doomsday seems to open with the heroes already confused, fractured across timelines, unsure who the enemy really is, and reacting rather than preparing. That's a crucial narrative shift, because if the heroes are reactive, it means Doom has been the one setting the board. In that theory, the idea that Victor Von Doom has been orchestrating events long before this film even begins is one I keep coming back to the more I analyze every second of this trailer. Think about it. Doom doesn't appear out of nowhere. In the comics, he's always 17 moves ahead of everyone else. He doesn't need to attack you directly when he can make you attack each other. And what's been happening across the multiverse saga? Heroes fighting heroes. Avengers splintering. X-Men arriving from a world that already lived through catastrophic mutant conflict. The Fantastic Four stumbling out of a universe where they were the only survivors. All of this chaos, this perfectly arranged chaos. What if none of it was random? What if the divergences in the multiverse, the cracks in the sacred timeline, the incursions? What if Doom has been quietly feeding those fractures, watching the universe's defenders fragment themselves so that when he finally steps forward, there's nobody left who can unite against him? That's not just a villain plan. That's a symphony. And then there's Thor. Oh man, Thor. When Chris Hemsworth's voice drops in that trailer, when he says that line about needing a miracle, stop. Rewind. Watch his face. Because that's not Thor being dramatic. That's Thor being honest. We've seen this character evolve from arrogant prince to broken god to king of the surviving Asgardians. He has lost Odin, Frigga, Loki, Vision, half his people, and he has still found ways to stand back up. But this? The weight in that warning feels different. It feels final. Like even he, the Asgardian who literally has the power of storms and centuries of warfare behind him, is looking at what's coming and calculating the odds in a way he never has before. And I think that warning isn't just for the audience. I think it's for Steve Rogers. Because here he is, Captain America, back. And before you say we already knew this, let me ask you something. Do you really believe this is the same Steve Rogers who handed over his shield and sat on a bench and smiled? Because I'm not sure it is. The multiverse is wide open right now. There are variants of every single character we've ever loved. So who exactly is this Steve Rogers? He has the shield. He has the posture. He has the uniform. But there's something in his eyes in that trailer that reads less like a man who found peace and more like a man who found reason. And that distinction matters enormously. Because if this is a variant Steve, a Steve who never got his dance with Peggy, a Steve who watched his world collapse instead of retiring, then his arc in this film isn't a reunion. It's a reckoning. He's not coming back to what he remembers. He's walking into a war with the grief of an entirely different timeline carved into him. And here's where it gets emotionally complicated in the most beautiful way. Thor warning Steve. These two have always had this rivalry that masks a deeper respect. Two warriors from impossible backgrounds, both carrying the weight of loss and leadership and legacy. If Thor is warning Steve, it means Thor is scared. Not for himself, for Steve, which means someone doesn't make it out of this. In the context of the multiverse, death isn't just death anymore. It's erasure. When an incursion wipes out a universe, there's no funeral. There's no grave. There's nothing. And I genuinely think that's the kind of sacrifice Doomsday is building toward. Not a death that ends in a statue, but a death that ends in silence. Now let's talk about what the Russo brothers bring back to this equation, because that name carries real weight. These are the directors who made the airport battle in Civil War feel like a disaster and a tragedy simultaneously. These are the people who cut from Thanos, snapping his fingers, to Peter Parker whispering he didn't want to go, and made half the world cry in a movie theater. When they left the MCU after Endgame, the franchise started experimenting, and some of that was brilliant and some of it was uneven. But the Russos understand something fundamental about scale. It doesn't come from spectacle alone. It comes from making you care so deeply about the individuals inside the spectacle that when the spectacle happens, it feels personal. And with Doomsday, they're walking back into a sandbox that has grown exponentially. The X-Men are here now. The Fantastic Four are here. Multiple variants of established characters are in play. The challenge is massive, and frankly, I think that challenge is exactly what's making them so sharp with every creative decision we're seeing. The X-Men showing up isn't just fan service, and it would be a mistake to treat it like it is. These are characters who come from a world that already experienced what happens when authority decides certain people don't deserve to exist. They have lived the consequence of unchecked power. So when Dr. Doom, a man who is unchecked power in its purest form, stands up and declares himself the solution to multiverse instability, the X-Men don't need a briefing. They've seen this story. They know how it ends. But here's the tension. They also don't automatically trust the Avengers. Why would they? In their world, governments and organizations have consistently failed them. So the Avengers versus X-Men undercurrent isn't just a fun Easter egg. It's a structural fault line running through this entire movie, and Doom is absolutely going to exploit it. He doesn't need to beat the heroes. He just needs them to not be able to agree on how to stop him. And then there are the Fantastic Four, and Reed Richards specifically. Because if anyone understands the multiverse on a scientific level equal to Doom's own intellect, it's Reed. These two have a relationship in the comics that is built entirely on mutual obsession. Doom doesn't hate Reed because Reed defeated him. Doom hates Reed because Reed reminds him of who he could have been if he'd made different choices. That psychological dimension, that mirror dynamic, is something I expect the Russo brothers to lean into hard. Because the most frightening thing about Doom isn't his armor or his sorcery or his nation of loyal subjects. It's that his worldview is internally consistent. He's not delusional. He's not nihilistic. He genuinely believes the world would be better under his control, and he has spent decades building evidence to support that belief. And against a man like that, a hero who simply punches harder isn't enough. Which brings us back to that word, miracle. What is the miracle Thor is praying for? I've been sitting with this question since the trailer dropped. My theory? It's not a weapon. It's not a sacrifice. I think the miracle is unity. Because the one thing Doom cannot plan for, the one variable his 17 moves ahead mind cannot fully account for, is genuine, irrational, emotionally driven human, and mutant, and Asgardian, and Kree, and every other species solidarity. In every version of the story where Doom wins, it's because the heroes couldn't set aside their differences in time. And in every version where he loses, it's because someone did something stupid and selfless and completely against their own survival instinct. That's the miracle, not thunder, not a shield. The choice to trust someone you have no logical reason to trust at the exact moment when everything is falling apart. That's what this movie is about at its core. Not the multiverse mechanics, not the variant theory, not even Doom himself, brilliant and terrifying as he is. It's about whether the people we've followed for over a decade of storytelling can find that thread of connection in the chaos and pull. Whether Steve Rogers, possibly from a world none of us have seen, can still be that guy. Whether Thor, who has lost more than almost anyone, still has the capacity to believe. Whether the X-Men and the Avengers can look at each other, see past everything that divides them, and decide that the thing in front of them is more important than the things behind them. The multiverse saga has been building to this. Every fracture, every variant, every incursion. It was all threading a needle toward a moment where the question isn't, how do we stop the villain? The question is, who do we choose to be when everything is on the line? And Avengers, Doomsday, from everything we've seen, is the movie where that question stops being theoretical. So here's what I want to leave you with. We have spent years watching these characters evolve, break, rebuild, lose, and try again. And now we're walking into the biggest room the MCU has ever built, with every hero, every timeline, every universe in play. And at the center of it all stand a man in iron armor who has already decided he's the answer. The only question left is whether we believe the heroes can prove him wrong. Not with power, with humanity. And honestly, after everything this franchise has put us through, I still believe they can. But I'm terrified about what it's going to cost. Drop your theories in the comments. Who do you think doesn't make it out? Is this variant Steve or our Steve? And what exactly is Doom planning that even Thor can't wrap his head around? Because I have more thoughts on all of it. And if this video hits, we're going deep on every single one of them next time. Stay with me. This is only the beginning.